Have you heard of the butterfly effect? The chaos theory known as the butterfly effect is the idea that one tiny change, one small event, can spiral into something unpredictably larger than ever expected. The idea spawned from the possibility that a butterfly flapping its wings can create enough of a gust that could eventually lead to a typhoon or perhaps a tornado. There's one series of games that I noticed that very much fits this description and to the rest of the internet. Its influence has spread across everywhere. You can find it in places such as silly little internet memes, to even some of the most popular music, video games, and even anime. It is just out of view for most people to notice, and it all links back to this. It may not look like it now, but this game changed the internet forever. But in order for any of this to make sense, we must start from the beginning. The story starts here, in Tokyo, Japan, at the Denki University. The year is 1995 and we'll be following a student by the name of Junya Ota, or more commonly known as his pen name, Zun. He made this name for himself because back then, arcades had a 3-character limit. Just as a note, I will be referring to him as Zun for the remainder of this video. During his early life, he had always been involved in music. He claims that in elementary school he learned how to play the trumpet, and by high school he learned how to play the electone and started making his own musical pieces. During this time, he had always wanted to make music for video games but didn't know where to start and who was making video games. In university, he had been hearing about how his fellow students had been making video games on the PC-98 and he decided to do the same. At first, he would make games, presumably porting games from different platforms to the PC-98, and he said that his first game that he had made was a copy of Puyo Puyo. Then he decided to make his own original work, with the main goal being that he wanted to use the medium of a video game to show off his music. This would give birth to the game Touhou, highly responsive to prayers, under the name of Zunsoft. It's a game very similar to Breakout, where you have to use a ball to clear out all the tiles on screen and progress to the next stage. This would be the first game to feature the series staple Reimu Hakare, the wonderful Shrine Maiden of Paradise, and the game's main locale. It is currently named the Eastern Country, but would later be known as Gensokyo, and that is described as a strange world where the Shrine Maiden lives. And highly responsive to prayers, you play as Reimu, where you hit, kick, and slide around to hit a yin-yang ball to clear out all the tiles on screen while avoiding enemy projectiles until you reach a boss. As a note, all Touhou games are pretty light on story, so for now I won't mention the story until we reach later titles. He would finish making the game in 1995, but it didn't reach the general public until November of the following year at the 20th Harayama Matsuri, which is a local festival held at the Tokyo University. Continuing to make games, he then started developing on his next game, Touhou Fumaroku, the Story of Eastern Wonderland. This is what most Touhou games would be like moving forward. It is a bullet hell shoot 'em up style game where you have lots of bullets on screen that you're tasked with dodging and taking out enemies as you go. Unlike most bullet hells during this time period, they were either military or sci-fi action. But Zun wanted to make a game featuring a Miko, otherwise known as a Shrine Maiden, to be the main character with a strong Shinto aesthetic. This is how Touhou operates at its simplest form. You deal with a lot of mobs to power up and get items, and then at the end of the stage you fight a boss to get to the next stage, all the way until the game ends. This is classic video game stuff. This game would feature the next major character for the series, Kirisame Marisa, who Reimu was tasked with defeating before getting to the final boss. Marisa would later become the secondary protagonist of Touhou Project, continuing future releases. To those who are not in the know, Comic-Con is essentially Japanese Comic-Con. It is more than that, but for the sake of simplicity, that's what I'll describe it as. He had a small booth where he sold his games. He didn't really sell that many copies, but that was fine. He mainly just wanted to show off his music, and never really intended to blow up and become big in the indie scene. After this, Zun would start working on his next set of games. First was Phantasmagoria of Dim Dream, a PvP shoot-em-up where players would duke it out on their respective halves of the screen while they send bullets and patterns at each other while trying to survive each other's onslaught. The game would be released in 1998 at Comic-Con 52. Next would be Lotus Land Story, another bullet hell, much like the second game, but with some added refinements and a notable character of mention That would be the powerful yokai Yuka Kazami, who would become important later. This game also features a song called Bad Apple, which plays during Stage 3, which would take the internet by storm many years later. The last game that Sun would make for the PC-98 would be Touhou Mystic Square, with another notable newcomer added, Alice Murgatroyd. In this game, she joins our heroines, Reimu, Marissa, and another character I forgot to mention, Mima, to go after the big bad of the story. Mystic Square will be remembered as the final hurrah of PC-98 Touhou, with it being the most refined of its peers, and feels like a worthwhile send-off to what was supposed to originally be Touhou Project's final game. The PC-98 that Zun had originally accustomed himself to was simply not viable anymore. The hardware was declining in sales, support, and it was just an aging machine in general, but the transition phase was not smooth at all. Despite being the replacement, Windows computers weren't great for gaming, and Zun would make a statement saying that he would never make a Touhou game on Windows. He started working at Taito in 1999 as a game developer and seemingly lived a quiet life. In this time, he would help develop 5 games: International League Soccer, Magic Pengo, Wajingai, Graffiti Kingdom, and Exit. He would also help out on other games, but they were cancelled. During this time as well, he had joined a group of his old classmates from university called Amusement Makers to make Seiho Project, which was a counterpart to Touhou Project, and even had some of its Touhou characters appear. He mainly helped by creating the soundtrack for these games, seemingly fulfilling his wish for wanting to be the one in charge of creating music for video games. The year is 2002, and the rough transition phase of Windows PCs had ended and had become viable to make PC games on it again. And as it turns out, Zun wasn't really satisfied with his job at Taito, and he even left his group Amusement Makers to start working on a Touhou game again. Although those at the company around him didn't like that he was making games outside of the studio, he pushed forward. This time, developing for Windows, it would be a clean slate of sorts. He would then rebrand from Zunsoft to what is now known as Team Shanghai Alice. On April 15th, Zun would post on his website that he started making another Touhou game, this time called The Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, and started working on trial versions for players to test out the game. After several revisions, in August 11th, later within the year, at Comiket 62, the game would fully release to the public. The game would follow our 2 protagonists, Reimu and Marisa, to solve the Red Mist incident, where a thick red mist appears in Gensokyo and shrouds it in darkness. It sees them going to a newly discovered Western-style mansion to confront the perpetrators and put an end to this incident. Returning from his hiatus, he had sold the game again, but it didn't really sell very many copies. Zun wasn't really bothered by this, since music was his passion, so he decided to enjoy the rest of Comiket and carried forward. Shortly after releasing his first 2 games on PC-98, he began selling his games at Dojin stores and up for sale through mail order. Although it wasn't a big success, it was still worth having around. Without warning, Embodiment of Scarlet Devil orders were flooding in. He was unprepared for this massive influx of orders and kept trying to fulfill them. After the storm had passed and things began to clear up, Zun was confronted with the fact that his game was one of the highest selling games of Japan within the year. People loved it and kept sharing it around. Its appeal just attracted so many people. It even got Game of the Year by IGN Japan's Shin Amai. The appeal was mainly a mixture of things. The game's unique take on the bullet hell genre, being that it's about cute anime girls instead of modern warfare or sci-fi conflicts. There was a very light-hearted nature to the setting and characters, and even story. All of the characters were quite unique and had fun designs. And later on, each character that appears in this game would become iconic. We have a cute little girl, Rumi, shrouded in darkness, who can't see very well in front of her because of it. Chirno, the ice fairy, who claims herself to be the strongest in future releases alongside her friend Dayose. Then we have the guard of the mansion, Hong Mei Ling, who halts us from barging in. Then we would have Patchouli Knowledge, the librarian of the mansion. Following is Sakuya Izayoi, the maid of the mansion, and loyal to her mistress, Ramelia Scarlet. After beating the game, you unlock the extra stage where you would fight Ramelia's sister, Flandre Scarlet. One of the biggest appeals to this game was that the music was really good. Zun had accomplished his main goal of the series, and each of the tracks would become highly influential and iconic. Following the meteoric success of his game, Zun began working on his next game, Touhou 7. Perfect Cherry Blossom. The game would release a year later at Comiket 2003. The story of this game is that there had been a prolonged winter in Kensokyo and spring had yet to arrive, so our two protagonists go and investigate with a new playable character, Sakuya Izayoi, from the previous game. They follow a trail of cherry blossom leaves flying in the clouds to see where it would take them, where they would meet and fight new characters. Firstly, they would encounter, you don't belong here, Lady Whiterock, who is the winter yokai, then Chen, a cat girl, because we all need a cat girl. Following, we have a returnee, Alice Margatroyd, and then you encounter an ensemble of poltergeists, three sisters that play an instrument that attack you with their music. After fighting those three, you enter the underworld where you encounter the gardener, Yomu Konpaku, who wields a sword, and her mistress, Yuyuko Sagyoji, who was stealing spring the whole time to revive a dead yokai tree. The dead tree had a seal on it to prevent it from using its power, but the seal in question was someone's dead body. That someone was Yuyuko. The tree had the power to attract people to their deaths, and being partially responsible, Yuyuko took her own life. After beating Yuyuko, the tree partially resurrects, along with her soul. After surviving the onslaught, the main campaign concludes. From here, the player unlocks the extra stage where you fight the cat girl again, but something is different. She's stronger than before. It is then that you discover that she is a Shikigami to someone, and that someone is nearby. Here we encounter her master, Ran Yakumo, a nine-tailed fox who is also a Shikigami of someone else, and she is protecting her master. Beating her in combat will give you permission to see her master, but she tells you to return at night when she is active. Coming back, you face off against Yukari Yakumo, who is behind the spiriting away of people and did not close the gap between the living and the dead, causing the disappearance of spring in the first place. The game has a lot going for it, and you can clearly see that Zun was putting way more effort to the story, characters, and even his music as he was testing out a new style of sound. This game would later become iconic among Touhou fans and would later be featured on British TV by Charlie Brooker on his show Game Swipe years later.
Shoot-em-ups aren't as big as they used to be, although they still have a hardcore following amongst masochistic maniacs who actively enjoy dipping into titles like Perfect Cherry Blossom, which sort of resembles a firework display being sick. At any rate,
the influence of Touhou had been growing, and it's especially being done by the fans of Touhou Project who fell in love with the game and started making fan works of it, sharing it across online for others to see. In early 2004, Zun would make a post to his website that would change the internet forever. This is a set of guidelines that Zun had created for his fans when making fan works. I'll be highlighting a few points here. Using game data other than screenshots is forbidden, meaning that you can't use Zun's code or assets. This is to encourage people to make their own. Content that includes inflammatory material towards us or other copyright owners is forbidden. You cannot talk smack on people using Touhou's name. The last one is the most important. For commercial production of derivative work or mass circulation of derivative material outside of doujin shops, you must seek my permission. To publish on commercial magazines and books, you must notify me. You do not need to do so for magazines that describe doujin or derivatives. Right here, this gives people permission to freely create fan works, and would require permission in order to sell merchandise, although this would mostly affect companies. This invited people to make fan creations with a shared passion of Touhou Project. This would encourage a community of creativity and creation. The series was already popular in Japan, but now its audience can make Touhou content freely. This created a positive feedback loop where a fan would create a fan work, non-fans would see and become interested in Touhou Project, creating and inviting many new people into Touhou Project. Zun did not stop here though. He may have given the keys to the community, but he was still the one leading the ship, and he did not stop developing games. He would work on 2 new games, with the next mainline Touhou game, and my personal favorite game of the series, Touhou Easho, Imperishable Night. This game feels very much like a grand finale, with the antagonists of the last 2 games fighting alongside our friends, Reimu and Marisa. This adventure takes place at night, where the yokai had noticed something is wrong with the moon, so they convince a human to join them in investigating. Together they use magic to slow down time and create an imperishable night. Here we encounter new strange wildlife such as Regal Nightbug, the Firefly yokai, and later Mistia Lorelei, the Night Sparrow yokai. Getting past them, our heroines go to the human village, or where it's supposed to be. it seems as though it had disappeared, or to be more accurate, like it was never there in the first place. Here we encounter Kaine. With whatever is happening to the moon, it's stopping Kaine from going into her Hakutaku form. Beating her, our friends go to the bamboo forest of the lost, where they sense some sort of magic. They are then stopped by Reimu or Marisa, depending on which character you chose, and telling you to stop messing with the night. After beating either one of them, your team notices a mansion deep inside the forest and head inside to stop those responsible with the moon. Here we encounter lots of rabbits, with one of them being Tei Inaba, who tries to stop you, but she's not much of a threat. Later we encounter a different rabbit, but this one's a little different. Her name is Raizen Udonge Inaba, and my personal favorite character. She blocks the path ahead of you, stopping you from reaching her master. Her master is implied to be the one behind the incident. After beating Raizen, we chase off after her master and we fight her. We challenge Erin Yagakoro to restore the moon, and when you beat her, you're then able to beat the game a second time, in which unlocks an alternative final boss against Princess Kaguya. Princess Kaguya originates from the classic Japanese literature, The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, and she's essentially the same person as from the story. It's revealed to us that Erin and Kaguya fled to the moon and are now living in the bamboo forest and hiding. Later, Raizen fled the moon after the United States had landed on the moon and planted their flag. The people who lived on the moon took this as a sign of war, and to dodge the draft, Raizen fled the moon. Due to all the probes we had sent to the moon, its inhabitants took it as a sign of aggression, contacted Raizen that they'll be coming to pick her up and have her join the fight. So Erin and Kaguya worked together to create a fake moon to replace ours to keep Raizen safe, but agreed to returning things to normal after beating them. Then we unlock the extra stage. Princess Kaguya convinces a team of your choosing to go to the bamboo forest under a full moon as a trial of guts. In the forest you encounter Kaine again, but this time because the moon is normal, she's in her Hakutaku form and prevents you from going further to protect someone. Sadly, since you have already agreed to this and you can't back down, you take her down and you encounter the person she is protecting. Here we encounter Fujiwara no Moko, a girl who lives in this forest. Turns out that Kaguya and Moko had a long-standing feud, and this trial of guts is just Kaguya's way of annoying Moko for the day. Touhou 8 Imperishable Night is full of content and it has made fans very happy with its release, and gave us so much material to work with, and it is one of the most referenced games at Touhou besides Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Our next game would be Immaterial and Missing Power, otherwise known as Touhou 7.5. It's called this because it takes place in between Touhou 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom and Imperishable Night. This is a fighting game primarily developed by a different team called Twilight Frontier, with Zun acting as the writer and director of the game. This game would feature many of the characters we had encountered in Touhou 6 and 7, with a new newcomer this time around, with Suika Ibuki. She's an Oni who loves drinking, fighting, and even has a magical gourd that constantly refills. It was a hit in the community for being a competent fighting game, and would be re-released several times to add new content. These 4 games I have covered would be the most important games of the series moving forward, especially in relation to the fan works, since they're the most played and referenced of them all. There's so much to Touhou that fans can work with here, so many ideas, characters, and songs available for everyone to toy with. Zun would continue making Touhou games and other derivative work. He hasn't stopped and even quit his job in 2007 to make Touhou content full-time. From this point forward, I will focus onto the Touhou fans, and how in a sense they've kind of built the internet as we know it. If you're like me, and you grew up on the internet, there's a chance you have encountered Touhou Project, probably more times than you could think. This is a Touhou Mad video, featuring Ronald McDonald going along to the beat of You and Owen Was Her. Mads would become very popular, and people would make Mads out of essentially everything using Touhou songs. Eventually, people who do not know Touhou would see and start making their own style of edits. This would lay the groundwork for what we know as YouTube poops. In the early days of Vocaloid, artists had used Touhou music. Here we have an arrangement of Chirno's theme, Beloved Tomboyish Girl, as the oldest known non-demo Vocaloid song to be released. Many new artists would come into the space using Zun's music to create arrangements and learn to write music. There's a very strong chance that without Touhou project, Vocaloid would not become as big as it has. So faces such as Hatsune Miku, Teto, and Kaito, and many others would not be as recognizable. On May 20th, 2007 at Otherside 4, the circle known as Mario Records would release an album full of remixes of Touhou songs. The second song of the CD would be an arrangement of Bad Apple with Nomiko as the vocalist. This song is a standout because it is the only song on the album with vocals. Later in June next year, a user on Nico Nico Doga created a storyboard for the song and would ask users to make an animation. An animation group would later pick up the storyboard and create a shadow art music video where it would seamlessly transition between the most recognizable Touhou characters that released during that time. This music video would be seen by millions, and due to its simplicity, many people on the internet would make their own versions of the music video, either as a cover or recreation of the music video. It had gotten so big that even CNN had done a segment on it, where they mislabeled the music video as a stop-motion video. But it's CNN, so that's to be expected.
Well, check out this next one. So this is what's going viral now. This is how they made it. We're talking about 7,000 little pictures that were basically stop-motion, and they've now created a viral video out of this. Is more than 6.
When it came to recreating the music video, many people took it as a challenge to play Bad Apple on anything and everything. It has become a meme, and it cannot stop expanding. And as of January 2025, the upload of Bad Apple on YouTube has surpassed 100 million views with no sign of slowing down. If you have been browsing the internet regularly in the past several years, you might have encountered Suika through her I Am Japanese Goblin memes. This song, and to a lesser extent Suika, had taken over the internet around late 2021, and although slowed down, you can still encounter it in the wild sometimes. It's a meme that would popularize internet brain rot, but this is a classic meme in the Touhou community that had broken containment. The song was released in 2009 at Comic-Con 76 by the circle Astral Trip in the album Gensokyo Misogi Burai. The fourth song of this too has our song Broken Moon. It's a rearrangement of Suika's theme. The vocalist Coco sings Suika in English while about being drunk, drinking more, and just having a good time. On December 31st, 2010, a user on Nico Nico Doga would upload a 3D animated music video of the song with Suika dancing. It became an earworm for many people within the Touhou community, as it was occasionally referenced or even used as a Rickroll style meme. Thanks to the popularity of short videos because of TikTok and Instagram, the meme was tapping into circles outside of Touhou. This process was accelerated when the Indonesian YouTuber MTB remade the music video with updated models, graphics, and just general video quality. MTV's version of the music video would be recognized as the music video for the Japanese Goblin. Today, it is still regarded as one of the most recognizable brain rot videos because of the memes. So many people's hearts touched by an Oni calling herself a goblin. Another song to hit the internet by storm would be a song known as Tiny Little Adiantum. The song would release on May 26, 2013 in an album called Touhou Bossa Nova 2, done by a circle known as Shibayan Records. The song that was rearranged is Yuka Kazami's theme. Done in the bossa nova style. Today, the song is more well known as Omae Wa Mou, a remix done by Deadman that had taken the internet by storm, and being parts of several trends you might have seen, especially on TikTok.
Omae Wa Mou, 死んでいる.
There was a huge drama surrounding this song because Deadman barely did anything and called the song a remix. Then, after becoming so popular and selling the rights to a record label, it would cause copyright issues with the original creators. I don't know how to start with this one, so I'm just going to straight up say it. Touhou is partially responsible for the creation of 4chan. In 1999, the website 2channel, or 2chan for short, was released. This is the predecessor to 4chan, and it was created for Japanese users to speak freely on anything they wanted. As such, many Touhou fans came on and started to discuss the series they love so much. Someone even created ASCII art of the two protagonists with this text bubble above their heads saying Yakuri Shirnet, which translates to "take it easy." This would give birth to the Yakuri. It had gotten so big that artwork of the Yakuri displayed on the front page of the website. After some time, 2chan would catch the attention of a boy named Christopher Poole. After some time, he was able to get his hands on the source code and translated it to English. This became 4chan, the English counterpart to 2chan, a place that would initially talk about things such as anime, manga, and video games. Many anime fans would join, and a lot of the Touhou influence from 2chan would carry over, even being a part of the culture of 4chan users and being the subject of discussion itself. 4chan to this day is a popular site that people still go on, and Touhou Project was one of the reasons where it got to where it is now. For better or for worse, you make the call on that. There are 3 songs from different artists that has a Touhou sample in it, and they probably didn't even realize it. First we have Juice WRLD's Used To, then we have Scorey's Catch Me If You Can, and lastly Young B's Polo. All these songs would use the same sample in their music from Felt's arrangement Crescent Moon. The song originally comes from the game Touhou 13 Hopeless Masquerade. The song Lost Emotion is the theme song to one of the characters named Hata no Kokoro. All of this had started on a website called Looperman, a website for artists to download and upload copyright-free samples for their music. A user by the name of Godzilla2771 uploaded a portion of Crescent Moon to the site and it got a lot of downloads, letting artists run free with the sample. The problem is that in Looperman's guidelines, all uploads must be created by the artist, so there wouldn't be situations like this. Thankfully, Touhou is very laid back in terms of copyright, so there's nothing to worry about here. The guitar sample to this day has been mistakenly labeled as Juice WRLD sample, or sometimes even Young B's. Having millions think that this guitar sample is theirs, not realize it belongs to an expressionless anime girl. Onto the video games. A lot of developers today are Touhou fans, and sometimes like to sneak in references to the game they're working on. In League of Legends, we have 2 deleted items that were direct references to Touhou Project. First we have Wriggle's Lantern, a reference to Wriggle Nightbug in Touhou 8. Here we have Yomu's Ghostblade, a reference to Yomu the Gardener of the underworld who wields the blade. Then we move on to characters. The character Thresh is likely a direct reference to the character Komachi, being that they are both gods of death, use a scythe as their primary weapon, and the fact that Thresh was supposed to be red but didn't make it to the final design. The character Lux is a reference to Touhou Project, this time the main inspiration being Kirisame Marisa. Both of them ride on broomsticks and refers to herself as an ordinary mage, much like how Marisa would describe herself as an ordinary magician.
Light mage? I'm just an ordinary mage.
Artist in charge of the design even said that Marisa was a big inspiration. Incremental games, or simply known as idle games, are games where you click to gain a unit or a resource and then spend said resource back to get units or upgrades. This entire genre is essentially this loop of raising the number and making it go up faster. One system of these games is called Prestige, where you reset to 0 but you get some sort of bonuses. The system was first popularized by Cookie Clicker, one of the most recognizable idle games in and outside of its genre. You click the cookie to get a cookie, and then spend them to increase production passively. This is standard for a game of this type. After the player generates 1 trillion cookies, you unlock the ability to ascend via the legacy system. With this, you have a skill tree of sorts to unlock new bonuses. This idea was originally from a different idle game that had inspired the devs of Cookie Clicker. In a Tumblr post, they responded to a question about the inspirations behind Cookie Clicker. One of the inspirations listed was Kaguya's Table, featuring the lunar princess throwing her table. The game is very simple, but it had a cool mastery system where you would sacrifice progression for skill points. This would create a positive feedback loop to keep players hooked. Taking the system and adding it to their own game had made Cookie Clicker a favorite among players and grown massively over the years. Following its success, many new idle games will copy this prestige system and build the game around it. In a sense, Touhou is partially responsible for this entire genre for being what it is today. Some of the most popular gacha games today would not be what they are without Touhou. I'll be focusing on 3 games for this one: Girls Frontline, Arknights, and Azur Lane. Before I talk about the games, we need to talk about moification. It's essentially turning anything and everything into a cute anime girl. You might have seen this all over the internet before. Touhou had helped popularize this by turning monsters and all sorts of yokai into cute girls that you would encounter throughout the series. All of this starts with a Dojin Circle Mika team and a young man called Yu Zhuang. In 2007, Yu Zhuang would create Mika team and start working on Dojin visual novels. This would often be stories with cute anime girls, with war being a central theme. A few years later, Yu Zhuang and an artist would work on 2 Touhou art books, Maidens of Moria and Touhou Modern Warfare. I couldn't get much about these books, but their existence and being part of a Dojin circle might show that Touhou and its community might have had a strong impact on Yu Zhuang to express himself creatively through these kinds of projects. They would then release a series of art books called Guns and Girls, where they would depict firearms created from select countries as cute anime girls. Throughout the years, Mika Team would continue to keep making Dojin works and growing throughout that time. They would eventually become a company and start developing Girls Frontline. This would turn out to be a large project for them, and due to creative differences, 2 notable people left to make their own companies. Yao Meng started YoStar and then made Azur Lane, and Zhong Qixiang set out to start Hypergriff and created Arknights. These 3 games would become highly popular gacha games within the space. In Black Ops Cold War, the cruise missile score streak has text written on the side of it that is a direct reference to Touhou Project. We have a line of text saying, "UN Owen was her," a reference to the game and song from the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Below that, we see text that reads, "No place for Inaba," which refers to the rabbits of Touhou 8 Imperishable Night. Lastly, we have Undertale. This game was heavily inspired by Touhou Project, and if you look a little closely, Toby Fox has been a fan of the series for a long time, and it appears that he learned a lot about music through Touhou. It shouldn't be surprising that there are a lot of songs in Undertale similar to Touhou. We could even see some clear inspiration behind some of the designs of the characters from Touhou. The gameplay itself is also a mix of bullet hell and a turn-based RPG, focusing less on bombarding the player and more on the design and patterns of enemies to show off their personality. Very similar to Touhou Project. Toby Fox does not hide his love for the series, and he has even befriended Zun himself. On to anime. There's way too many examples, but I'll cut it down to 2. In episode 12 of Kaguya-sama Love is War, there's a small moment that depicts Kaguya and I as Yakuri. For this next example, I was blown away when I heard about it. So the anime Otherside Picnic was originally a Touhou fanfiction, but had grown so large that the original author decided to make it stand as its own work. So in 2007, it started printing as a light novel following Sorou Kamikoshi and Toriko Nishina, who are heavily inspired by the characters Renko Usami and Maribel Hearn of Hifu Club. Hifu Club Activities is a set of music CDs Zun had made with short stories tied to them. It's a spin-off from Touhou, and it follows the characters Renko and Maribel in their adventures to go into a different world. In Otherside Picnic, we follow Sorou into a different world and having adventures with Toriko. The story parallels are no accident here. There are too many examples to show just how much influence the series had on the internet and modern day culture. I couldn't quite fit everything in without coming off as a madman trying to piece together everything, but hopefully you got a clear picture of what I was trying to show. I became a Touhou fan on accident, but I'm very grateful for it. It's such an odd series, and I just started to notice just how much direct and indirect influence this series had on the internet, and I couldn't stop seeing it, more of it everywhere. Thanks to the Twitter account Touhou Hijacks in the Outside World, which is run by DeltaPi, I was able to use some examples that he had documented on here. At first it was fun spotting the references and following the trail of breadcrumbs, but I kept finding more, so I had to share this rabbit hole I found, which is why this video exists. I thank Zun and the Touhou community for everything they gave us. Without them, the world would be a bit more boring and less creative.